welcome to the RubySorce podcast. Today, I'm joined by Benji Lewis, who is a senior software engineer at Zappi. Welcome to the show, Benji. Thanks a lot for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Sawan. It's a pleasure to be here.
So, I'm going to go straight into a bit about your journey to date, and you would just like to start from the top, really. So, yeah, tell me a bit more
Yeah.
about how you got into programming and that sort of thing.
Yeah, so I think that it all started, I think, when I was in grade 3 or year 3 in South Africa, and I got like a radio for my birthday and was just fascinated by how this electronic system worked, and kind of always knew that I wanted to go into electrical engineering or something in that nature from a young age, I think. And then it was in like year 9, I don't know what they're called in the UK, but grade 9 in South
Yeah,
Africa,
yeah, no, yeah.
2009. I we had like a coding course at my school, and we learned how to program in Java, very basic, kind of starting from the very bottom. And yeah, I guess that was where the love for coding first started. Yeah, so carried on doing that through my school and eventually ended up studying electrical and computer engineering at UCT, which is the University of Cape Town. Um, and yeah, the course kind of really laid the foundation for my coding future, really. Did a lot of projects at university on embedded systems, so writing C firmware, doing bits of Java here and there, and yeah, also Python at university. So yeah, that's, I guess, where the real love for coding first started.
Nice. And so the languages that you first started with were Java and Python. So when did you get into
Yeah.
Ruby?
Ruby started when I joined Zappi. So I finished university and kind of took a little bit of a bit of time off, took 3 months off, kind of got back from this great trip, and initially was trying to find jobs in the electrical or the digital embedded firmware space, which I don't know if anyone knows the scene in Cape Town, but the industry is pretty lacking over there. It's either you're working kind of in a warehouse in the middle of nowhere, or you're working for some kind of military-based company, which ideologically for me wasn't really there. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
the startup scene at that time, it was what 2016, 2017, and Cape Town was really kind of picking up. Quite a few startups with offices in the city. And yeah, one of the guys that I studied with had ended up working at Zappi, and he kind of mentioned to me that he's sure that I would love it and get on well with everyone there. So popped in for an interview, and yeah, kind of fell in love with the company immediately, really. And they use Ruby and Rails, and bits of Python too. So that was where I first kind of fell in love with Ruby, I guess.
So you started at Zappi and you'd never done anything Ruby related prior to that then?
Yeah. It was actually really funny because I hadn't done much coding before my interview, and I kind of rocked up to this interview, in shorts and a t-shirt, and they were like, "So what programming language do you want to do the test in?" And I was kind of like, "Well, I guess like Python or C or something." Like I probably won't remember the exact syntax, but like ask me the questions, I'm sure I'll be able to answer them. And they were happy with me writing like pseudo code and really poking the more understanding rather than the language. So
Sure.
yeah, completely learned Ruby on the job. Um, I think it probably took me like a good 6 months before I got the full swing of it, really.
Nice, nice. Okay, cool. And would you say that the passion for computers and tech came from that first radio then?
Yeah, I guess so. Hey, I guess so. Yeah, I guess when I was growing up, the kind of electrical space or digital space was kind of, you know, just starting to boom, really. We are still watching TV on those CRT screens.
Hmm.
And yeah,
Yeah,
that really fascinated me. So definitely was that digital space, kind of that radio, really was what set me off into that world.
brilliant. And how would you describe Zappi to people that have never heard of the company? What would you say that they do, and what you're up to there?
Yeah, so Zappi is an online market research automation platform, and essentially we help creators make better decisions about whatever it is that they're creating. And we do this through our really fast survey platform. So we've got a bunch of research products on our system that are optimized for different types of testing. So you can test, what your concepts. So like maybe you've got a new burger flavor that you want to launch and you want to see how that works with an audience, or maybe you've got just like a static image or advert campaign that you want to test with real people. We'll run those through our products and our platform and get surveys answered by paid respondents on the other side. And then once those people have answered the surveys, they'll kind of get back into our platform, and you can interrogate the data through our analysis platform, where we can provide insights, and you can really look into how different people responded to different parts of the adverts and these types of things.
Sure. And you're based in London yourself, but do Zappi have teams and offices overseas as well?
I actually started off in the Cape Town office. We've got our CTO is based in Cape Town. He moved there after I think Zappi was two previous companies. When they merged, he went back to Cape Town and started a software office there. So when I joined, there were about 14 people in the Cape Town office. And then 2 years after that, I moved to London, which is where the company's headquartered. And we've also got another software branch here. And then outside of that, we've got a few engineers working remote around the world, Canada. We've got someone in Santiago in Chile, a few people scattered throughout Europe. And we've got quite a big sales team that's located around the States, mainly in Boston.
Sure.
And then I think we've got a team in the APAC region, so in Singapore is where they're based. So we're kind of like scattered a bit throughout the world.
Nice. And you've been working recently on quite an interesting project using Ruby, Redis, and roaring bitmaps. Can you tell me a bit more about that project and what you've been up to?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, there's quite a bit of a backstory to the project, really. It's that I started my career at Zappi in the reporting analysis space, which is where we do a lot of our data computation and data storage. And in the initial platform, or the current platform, the type of analysis that people are doing is they're looking at their single survey that they ran at a particular point in time, and maybe comparing that with one or two other surveys. But yeah, as time has gone by, we've wanted to kind of increase the offering that we have. And we'd like to be able to kind of access all of our data at the same time and do some real-time analysis over everything, rather than just segmenting them over small bits of data. So we've got a kind of like a moonshot R&D team called Zappi X, which is named after the Google X company, which is where they do their kind of crazy moonshot things. And yeah, it's actually the old CTO. Well, our ex-CTO kind of started off this team and has been working on really innovative projects in the Zappi space. And he came up with the idea of using two different unique technologies in conjunction to build a really interesting platform. And those were bitmaps, which is a way to represent data with ones and zeros, and graph databases, which is a way to kind of describe the kind of connections between different data points. And you're kind of able to traverse this graph with a really unique or interesting query language. And the combination of these two things led us to kind of discovering that, firstly, on the bitmap side of things, we were able to compress our entire data set into what was, when we loaded most of the things, it was around 80 gigabytes instead of being in the orders of terabytes. There's like a 180x compression factor on that. And then because it's all stored in bits, and it's all uncompressed in this bit format, you can do some really interesting things with bit ops. So you can kind of filter your data in real time using bitwise operations. So you can kind of ask it very specific questions like, I want to know about all the people who answered a question, from the United States, that were asked in the salty snacks category, and who were male. You could kind of ask it to fetch all this data, filter it down, and it would come back in like 9 milliseconds. So it's all super
Wow.
fast.
Nice. Okay, that seems very interesting. Um,
Yeah.
and and off the back of that, you spoke about this project at RubyConf in the US last year. How was that?
Yeah, it was an amazing experience. It was my first time attending a RubyConf actually, and also giving a presentation at a conference too. So it was a lot of and it was also my first time in the States really. So it was a lot of firsts and like a whole bunch of new experiences. Um, so yeah, it was really amazing overall. It was obviously quite nerve-wracking getting on the stage and um with all the lights on you and speaking in front of people. Um, and yeah, so obviously once the nerves had kind of settled and subsided and I'd kind of got the talk done, it was amazing. I mean, yeah, the Houston RubyConf was, I mean, yeah, just the people that were there were super friendly and, interested in the talk that I gave. Lots of really good questions following it. People bumping into me throughout the event, kind of wanting to know more, see how they could play around with it. Um, so yeah, from that perspective, it was amazing.
And was there anyone that you talked to after the conference that, after you spoke, was there anyone that had done anything similar, maybe in the US or anywhere, I suppose?
No one had really done anything of that nature before.
Mm.
Some people had worked with bitmaps, some people had worked with graph technologies, but never in conjunction as this type of a data index, really. So from that perspective, not really. Yeah.
No. Okay. Okay. And keen to hear about RubyConf and you speaking and what you've obviously mentioned that it was slightly difficult or challenging. What did you like about doing the speaking for the first time?
Yeah, so I think that one of the main things that I really liked is that when you're putting together your presentation, you really need to kind of take a few steps back because we were working on this project for like a year and a half. We were super deep in the zone on it, and to kind of take a step back and try explain this project to a bunch of people from first principles who probably have no context around the kind of deep technical project that we had. I think that whole process was really valuable. Um, it also was, I think, a test of my public speaking ability. I guess I've never done that kind of a thing before. I mean, I used to, speak at s smaller events, but yeah, getting in front of people like that was definitely pushing me out of the comfort zone. Um, and yeah, the other bits that I really enjoyed about it was obviously meeting this other speakers. There was like a speakers dinner where we got to meet some of the I would say in inverted commas influencers in the Ruby space,
Sure.
people that are working on like really incredible open source projects that are pushing kind of what Ruby can do as a language and how it works. Um, and ultimately it kind of gave me a new perspective on the programming language because everyone says that one of the main good things about Ruby is that it's got such an amazing community. And to see the people that have, dedicated their careers to the open source packages that they're developing, like JRuby or CRuby. There's a
Yeah.
guy that I met that built Dragon Ruby, which is like a gaming engine built in Ruby, which, I don't think many people would think off the bat of doing something like that. So kind of seeing how these people are so passionate about the language and the community, really opened my eyes to what a great environment the Ruby group is.
Yeah, for sure. Great. Yeah, absolutely great community. Um, are there any conferences that you've lined up so far, or that you'd like to talk in the future?
Um, I haven't lined anything up as of yet. I was hoping to speak at Brighton Ruby, but sadly the timings don't work out, and I need to be elsewhere, which is a real pity because I've heard amazing things about that event. Um, I'm definitely keen to speak at maybe a few more meetups. There's the Bristol West Side meetup, I think is the name of it, um, which I would love to go chat to. Um, and then I think, in terms of more Ruby events, obviously it would be a dream to go to Ruby Kaiji in Japan,
Yeah,
which
for sure.
is like the main Ruby event. Um, I'm not sure if I'd have the courage to speak at that just yet. Would need to come up with a really meaty topic for that one.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Um, but there's also some conferences around Europe which are also looking really interesting, like Euroku, or maybe even a Rails Conf, which is in happening pretty soon in Atlanta, I think. Um, but yeah, at the end of the day, I think that my kind of my dream conference to speak at would be QCon, which actually there's one that happens in London. It's
Mhm.
not specifically on Ruby or Rails and whatnot. It's more of a software architecture conference. But yeah, that's one of my favorite events, and yeah, it would be a dream to speak there one day.
Perfect, perfect. It sounds like you've got the speaking bug. Yeah.
Um, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's a bug or if it's just exciting. It's quite an easy thing to say. Put a goalpost on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure. And I'm keen to, I suppose, follow up to this to understand a bit more about your future at Zappi and what that looks like. Tell me a bit more about that.
Yeah, so I mean, I've it's quite uncommon in the software engineering space to stay at a company for so long. I mean, I've been there for like 6 years now.
Yeah,
And
wow.
and yeah, I really must give kudos to Zappi for maintaining the culture that they have. I joined when there were like 60 people, and now there's like 350 people. And we seem to be going from strength to strength. We just closed our Series C fundraiser. Um, so we kind of got the leeway to work on the things that are really going to make the business succeed in the future going forward. Um, so off the bat of that, and also the topic that I spoke about and worked, this project that I've been working on in the Zappi X team, is that we've started a new team at Zappi called the Data Engine team,
Okay.
and we're pretty much working in the same space as the previous project, but we're doing it with slightly bigger vision. The innovation team, that work that we did really validated the fact that we needed to do something, and that there's this project in the Measure Store, which is the internal name for that whole system, that we need something like that to kind of achieve our goals. And this team is going to be, making that a reality. And I'm working with two great colleagues that we've all been at Zappi for a long time, and lots of analysis and data experience in the business. So it's a really dynamic team. We're moving super fast, and it's really exciting. Um, and then what's next? I'm not so sure really. I don't really have any vision beyond Zappi. I just want to, my head is down on the Zappi project and would really like to see that succeed. I definitely think that at some point I'd like to, move into a, green energy, working in something that's got a bit of a societal impact, and working with something that can make the world a greener place. I think that's a something that I'm really passionate about, and
Passionate about. Mhm.
whether that happens as a side project or just turns into something full time down the line, I'm not so sure. But yeah, I would love to work in that type of a space.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I obviously being in recruitment, speak to developers every day and try to understand what their where their passion lies, and what they are looking for in their next role. And I think this type of societal impact and social responsible type company comes up a lot, and it has done a lot more in the past year or two than it did before. Do you think that do you think that that's a passion of yours outside of your career as well, or do you think as a developer you think that you can make a change and that's what you'd like to do?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly something that I'm passionate outside of just the software engineering space. Sadly, I'm not that active in doing much about it. I do my best to recycle, reduce waste, and use clean modes of transport. But in this world, it's really hard to fully make a big difference without kind of I don't know, committing your life to the goal,
To the
really.
cause.
For the cause, yeah.
Yeah.
It's an interesting point, because I think that and this is just a thought that I've had on like just a second, so it's not a really mature thought, but I think that we've seen the startup boom, we've seen the dot-com bubble, and all these high growth startups succeeding and raising lots of money, and I think that young engineers are coming through and probably trying to find some more different ways of using their skills to give back to the world, and try to have a more positive impact in that way. So yeah, I'm not surprised to hear that it's such a common thing that you speak with other people about.
Yeah, absolutely. Benji, thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure to talk with you.
Yeah, nice to chat
Um,
with you, Sawan. Thanks for having
and
me.
let's yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, man, and good luck with the rest of the podcast.
Thank you.